Mm. Tim, what was your reaction to the way that Coach Rhule talked about Dylan over the course of Big Ten media days? Was pretty effusive in his praise for him. Seemed less, I don't know, a little less restrained than last year when he talked about Dylan. Like, how did you process that?
I think it's just the he's had a full year now, and so like compared to last off season, where it's like, okay, we want to make sure we're still kind of not tempering expectations, but just like he's still a freshman. He was a freshman last year, but the way the Rhule talks about Dylan and the way Dylan talks about himself, I think is just emblematic of of what's happened behind the scenes over this last year. He's stepped up in the weight room. He stepped up in the locker room. He stepped up on and off the field where he is the leader. This is his kind of team now, and so I don't think any of this happens. I think Rhule's honest. I don't think he's there if Rhule didn't think he was putting in the work. And I kind of hinted at it last week, Damon. You weren't on the show, but kind of touched on it last week. There are some programs out there where it's a quarterback entering a year two or entering the second year starting, and there's questions within that program right now about that guy's work ethic, or
Yeah.
whether that guy can be the
Yeah.
guy. There's no questions about that at Nebraska right now because he's put in the work to be the guy. He's kind of led from the very front. He's set up, kind of these throwing sessions. He's built a camaraderie with his wide receiver room. He's a leader in the recruiting space as well. He's as involved as you want your starting quarterback to be, your headline, your face of the program type guy to be. And I think everything that's following is showing that.
One of the things that I appreciate about Coach Rule is he's pretty intentional and kind of how he talks and the message he wants to portray. And he didn't allow me to frame the question of, hey, how are you able to replace your staff with such good coaches without acknowledging that he had good coaches previous to needing to have them being replaced, right? He wanted to pay some homage to the Coopers and the Knightons and the Tony Whites, where even when he asked the question, because basically I'm saying, wow, you got an Addison Williams, you've got a Phil Simpson, you've got a Braden, you've got a Phil Snow, you've got a Dana Holgerson. And he's basically in his answers like, oh, hold on. Like I had some guys before that too that helped me get this thing going. But yes, I am, I am excited about the new guys we had on board. It's pretty it's interesting as I reflect being in his position. You never want to do a disservice to those that have been before you, and he's very diplomatic in doing that while he's still telling the story of how this program was built. Right? Like even in that answer, he's saying, "Hey, we don't get any of this done without Reimer and Bullock. Hey,
Hmm.
we don't get any of this done without Coop and Knighton and T White. Like he's very good at tying the whole thing together before he's quickly ready to move on. I don't know if I don't know what it is. I just hear it in all the answers. It's hard to believe that the players won't think along similar lines, right?
Right. I think it's really impressive that he
It's
does.
incredible.
Yeah, what he does is he gives the proper context and gives the proper, I think, flowers to everyone that's deserving. Again, this is not a similar situation at all, but I've been thinking this week, Tyrann Mathieu retired, of course, and that's a guy that I love growing up. He's a guy that there's a lot of debate right now within the Chiefs fan community of like, hey, does he deserve to be in like the Ring of Honor? Does he deserve some some honor from the Chiefs? And there's a section of the fan base is like, yeah, but this guy was more. I don't think people recognize the mentality and the culture and just the leadership that Mathieu brought to that Chiefs secondary that allowed him to elevate to the point that, hey, that was a defense that was solid, that, kind of played above them to match Mahomes and early on in this run was able to lead them to this run. Like, and I don't think in the time and since he left, because of some of the way it was handled on the way out, I don't think he got his proper due for what he did to that Chiefs defense. I bring that up just to say I think Rhule's doing a good job of before we even get to a point of having to reflect, before we even get to that point, he's like, hey, make sure these guys,
Yeah.
get their due. Make sure it's like, hey, this is how
Yeah.
it's supposed to go.
I
And we
agree.
have to credit these guys now before it's all done.
I was, it was one of those, and he's just super thoughtful, and I just remember when I was leaving, his answer forced me to go back and say, was I too quick to gloss over the previous staff? But even if I was, he let me off the hook with his answer,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because I'm basically saying, goodness, man, like this staff on paper is pretty impressive. You could make the case that it's better on paper than a year ago, and some of the guys you weren't planning on leaving, and you replace them in. Like, that's what I'm thinking in my head as I'm framing the question. And he still brings it back to the whole, and I love the term getting your flowers, because I'm like that that's a big thing for me, especially with men. But um it's just hard to believe that as seamless as he could weave that into an answer, his team wouldn't be appreciative of the guys that have gone before them, or what they went through, or what their offseason workout looks like before they move on to the next thing, right? I don't know. He's a gifted orator, I get it, but he's extremely thoughtful too.
Yeah, I think that's like we talk about. What's most impressive, I think, is how in the moment and cognizant he is of the people around him and how important they factor into everything. And again, that willingness. Like again, we just saw. I don't want to hash it, but we just saw a former head coach here just kind of dismiss everything that happened here. It's different. I think it is impressive that he's willing to give those flowers not to the previous guy
And
staff,
even in those answers, he got his point across.
Mhm.
It was kind of biblical, right? There wasn't the chastising in the glass house. It was the acknowledgement, the okay, but this is where we are now, and I get, like, just the even the answer had grace. Yet he could, in the same vein, say, "You guys realize I did inherit a mess. Who was the head coach previous that I took over for?" But
Right.
you could get that point
Mm-hmm.
without having to have him say, "Look, bud, I took over a worse job than you did." He
Yeah.
he didn't have to say that, though. You know what I mean?
Right.
It just, and how he answered the question, it was like, oh, he even had people like, was he defending him? Is he not defending him?
Well, I mean,
He's very smart in that regard.
if you look in my mentions, maybe he did need to say it out loud because some people definitely missed it. Like some people definitely missed the fact that he was rebuking the job that Scott Frost did, and that's why. Like, because I've got the famous like poop on my porch rant, right? And people are like, well, I wonder what Ravi, like people quote tweeted it to me and was like, oh, what does Ravi think now? And I was like, he literally just told you the ways in which Scott Frost defecated on the porch.
Yeah.
Like that was the entire rant. Like I get that he said it in a way that was nicer and less crude than I did.
He's just
But like he was laying out all of the ways in which this job was torn down by the time he got here.
and
Yeah.
and could say it without saying it.
Yeah.
He's just
Maybe
he's
it's been
brilliant.
discussed already. Yeah, maybe it's been discussed already. I think the one part of that statement specifically about what he inherited and where it is now, the big thing I don't think people are talking enough about is the alignment from top to bottom
Yeah, the
that
finance.
he has
Yep,
now
100%.
that they haven't had in a while. They didn't really have when Frost was here. They didn't really have at the start of Rhule's tenure. They have that from AD down to the players,
Yep.
down to some of the support staff. It's aligned across the board, and I don't think people take into account how important that is for a program to take the step forward and take another step forward.
How about how he just casually talks about the position financially that they'll be in, not this year or next year. He said 3, 4, 5 years down the road about Nebraska being uniquely positioned. Like, he's talking to, about, and with the brain trust. Like, the unity and the purpose is, it just seems to be, on whatever today is, extremely cohesive. I'm almost shocked, to be honest.
Yeah, that surprised me. That statement surprised me, but again makes sense, and again kind of goes to show they're never thinking about just the individual year, the individual moment. They are thinking for the future and building this program up. And I think any questions of like how dialed in or how invested is this staff in Nebraska's success was pretty much answered by Big Ten Media Day.
Yeah.
Tim, I was thinking about this earlier, and I was trying to figure out. You mentioned the alignment, and I was trying to figure out. Okay, like Frost didn't really have it. Riley didn't have it. Bo didn't have it. I was trying to think of the last time there was alignment from president, AD, and head coach.
Yeah, I've talked about this since December.
Probably like early 90s, mid 90s.
Early, yeah. The example I gave, Tim, and this was a while ago, I think early on, Bill Byrne and Coach Osborne and that athletic department was uniquely aligned, and up until the kind of the big picture President Trophy Cup kind of philosophy that Bill Byrne had. But that I think you have to go back at least 20 some odd years.
I mean, it's pre-move to the Big 12, right? Like, because that was
I agree.
That was the fracture, the big one.
I agree with that.
So, like, your point is well taken. I do think the only thing I would say about that as a caveat is, like, obviously there had been a decent amount of winning that happened without that alignment that I don't want to let Frost off the hook. That was my only point. Like, a lot, like, no, like, I'm not going to do that. Like, Eichhorst and Bo Pelini hated each other, and he still won 9 games a year.
Yeah.
So, like, I'm not going to let him off the hook for that. Like,
yeah, but we missed the whole point, TV, when I remember we were stuck down in the basement in Chicago doing shows on Big Ten Media Days, and Moose says we just got to get to 6, and people thought he was nuts.
Yeah.
I mean, talk about not being aligned. Like, he told us.
Hey, man, I don't know what you guys
He's like, look, I don't know what you guys are talking about. We just got to get to 6.
We got to do a bowl game.
Do you know how long ago that was?
Yeah. 2019?
Yeah, we pooed that thing.
Yeah, pretty aggressively.
And he was spot on. I mean, that comment stole the offseason.
It did.
And he was as right as the day is long. Yeah, I mean, it's been a while for the alignment.
Tim, were there anybody else at Big Ten Media Days outside of Nebraska that you were impressed with, concerned with, that just struck you in any kind of way?
Just the continued, the continued confidence from Signetti. Maybe it's not this year, maybe it's next year. We'll see. I mean, depending on how they perform this year, but I was surprised there wasn't a bigger target on Indiana's back. While he maintains his confidence. Maybe that happens next year. Maybe that happens on the field. I don't know. But really, outside of that, nothing really. I know today's like UCLA day, so I'm very interested to see kind of how. Was that yesterday? Were they up yesterday?
Yeah, you know who's interesting? We're kind of, and it's fresh. What do you have any thoughts on Sherrone Moore in Michigan?
Just in general?
Yeah, like. He came across as a guy that didn't have an offseason of tumult, right? It's just like, I don't know if it wasn't a big deal or the fact that Petitti's like, hey, leave my guys alone, or I got to pick my games that I was going to be suspended. And I get the ready to move on from, but I couldn't sort between just confidence in the upcoming season, not wanting to keep the trash on the curb versus being dismissive. I felt like their tenor was interesting yesterday.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I thought that I don't know. I don't know how you can specifically commission. I don't know how you can like dismiss what they did and act like it. Like on one hand, I think if you zoom out and you look at the whole thing, it's like, okay, yeah, they probably went above and beyond, but it was a previous staff. And it, again, at least on paper, he was not there for the national championship run. He was not there for these, like, he wasn't there for certain things. And I don't know. But at the same time, I know there's people in the conference that are pretty pissed off about it. But as far as the team goes going into this
he's
year,
one of the few coaches to be named twice.
Right.
I mean, it's hard to be, to avoid that. Which is
Right.
why he's being
So-
suspended, right?
Yeah, yeah. So that's what I'm like. I don't know. I kind of think the Michigan program themselves are like, well, we're focused on now. We're focused on the future, and everyone else is like, well, you still do have to face some kind of accountability for what y'all did, which is fair. I get it. I understand both sides of it, but for Michigan and the sake of their program and sake of moving forward and kind of turning the page and turning to the Underwood era, I think they need to focus on now. At the same time, I think every other program and every other fan in the Big Ten and in the country has the right to be pissed about probably the fact that they're going to get away with relatively lack of accountability for what happened.
That's our guy, Tim Verghese, Inside Nebraska. Tim, we appreciate the time as always. We'll talk to you next week.
Thanks, TV.
Appreciate you guys.